Hi there. Welcome to Building a Community in a New Place. I am Carla and I will be guiding you through the content. And I made some slides just to help. So I'm going to share my screen now and we are going to jump right in. How are you? Are you having a fantastic day? I sure hope that you are. It's gorgeous where I live. It's a sunny day, things are going well, and I am pretty excited. And you may be finding yourself in a new town, in a new place. I remember moving to my community. It's been quite some time ago, but it was June 1st, and I will never forget it. I had moved from a place that was super warm, and I already had a tan and was feeling pretty healthy and vibrant and alive. And my new town, the temperature was 40 degrees and I was tearful all day long. I must have called my husband multiple times. Well, I called him multiple times. I don't know how many, but I bet you he could tell you how many because he was trying to get started on his new job and getting, doing actual work, and I hadn't started my new job yet, and I just was freezing and so sad and not connected and feeling completely awful, and it was horrible, and I just wanted to go home. Um, it's been, as I said, a long time. This was in 1999, June 1st, 1999. And it took some time, but I have built a community and now I can't even imagine ever leaving them. So if you are new to a town, be encouraged. Things can change. And no matter how dire or how cold it feels right now, you can warm it up. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is some strategies to make that happen sooner rather than later. And just to take some responsibility in that, but also feel some hope in that. So that's what we're here to do today. So if you have moved to a new place and are ready to build community, then you are in the right place. So welcome. Okay, you guys, I don't know if you know this, but there are lists. There's lists for pretty much everything, but there is a top 10 list of life's stressors. And moving is in that list. So moving comes in at number 7, but look at what it's behind: death of a loved one, divorce or separation, getting married, starting a new job, workplace stressors, financial problems, and then moving to a new place. So it is in that top 10 list. After that is chronic illness and injury, retirement, and transition to adulthood. What I found very fascinating with this list is that moving to a new place is a top 10 stressor. We said it's right at number 7, but moving to a new place is often related to some of these other stressors. And so if you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed and anxious and hopeless at times, it makes sense, right? It's normal. It would be common to feel these things because you might be starting a new job, which is why you moved to a new place. You might be going through a divorce or separation, or maybe newly married, transitioning to adulthood. You might be going off to college, or moving away from your hometown and moving to a new city. And so it's not just that moving to a new place is stressful, it's that it's often connected to one of these other of life's most stressful things. And so there are a lot of people who are on this class or watching this class, and there are probably even a lot more who navigated this who would have benefited from this class. And so let's talk about what we're going to do here today. If you've moved to a new place and you're ready to build community, we're going to help you with 3 distinct sections of this training. So this is your syllabus. We're going to define. So we're going to understand what is community. What am I even talking about when I'm saying building community? And then we're going to study. We're going to look internally and see what is our experience now and what is our readiness level, and just kind of take some reflection time to just understand what we're approaching this with so that we can have realistic expectations for ourselves, and then also just better understand what we're doing. And so I don't want you to think that this training today is just you should do this and you should do that. It's you need to know yourself and you need to understand who you are, and then you'll better be able to see which of these invitation tips, all of these things, invitations or tips are for you. And then the third thing is we're going to talk about homework, what to do next. And so some initial actions you can take so that you can begin to build community in your area. So if you haven't already, I'm a person who likes her pen and journal. So grab your pen and journal. The evidence is in that people learn better when they are able to take notes. And I want you to participate and get the most out of this class that you can. So you're going to be taking some notes and also answering some questions for yourself. And so we want this to be actionable. So put me on pause and go grab your pen and journal if you haven't already. And now let's jump in to define. So I think it's important that we understand community so that we're all on the same page of what we're talking about. So this is how the online dictionary that I sourced defines community. A community is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. Community is a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. So I think, this makes sense to us when we read it, but I think it's important for us to understand that proximity is important. I mean, when we look at this definition, we can see people living in a similar place, right? So proximity is important. And so although you have connections from wherever you moved from, and they are still part of your community, it's going to be harder to connect with them and spend time with them and further nurture that relationship from a geographically different place. Not that they're not going to be part of your world any longer. That's not what I'm saying. But we want you to be able to, in this new place, with people that are in proximity to you, to be able to develop a community so that you're getting different benefits, right? When they're close to you. And you can better have those tangible benefits that come from physicality, right? The physical placement of each other. Fellowship with others also is more likely to happen when it's not just online or over the phone, but physical proximity. And so you don't want to, just dump whoever you've had in your past, but you're not going to necessarily have the same level of connection with the people that lived in your old neighborhood as you want to try and develop with the people who live in your new neighborhood. Common attitudes, interests, and goals. And so a lot of times communities are built around those things, right? This is part of that definition. And so it's saying frequently you're going to have common attitudes, interests, and goals. It doesn't mean you're going to be exactly like cookie cutter, cloned from each other. Like, we all are complex beings and we have a lot of nuance in us. And I mean, we're human and we want that humanity to come through, but there are some common attitudes and some common interests and some common goals that can bring you together, create that community, and then within that community those differences can be explored. And so here are some examples of communities that are centered around these things, right? It could be centered around sports or hobbies or a particular club or school, which is a proximity thing, church, a neighborhood, your role. All the fathers could be in a specific community, moms groups are common, or it could be centered around a specific ethnic group or geographic location. Okay, so some of the benefits of community include, you guys can see these too, but I want to explore these. Connection with other people is so central to our humanity. We all desire connection, introvert, extroverts, some combination or balance of the two. We are people who need connection with others. Inspiration. We can be inspired and encouraged. I don't know about you guys, but life is hard sometimes. And so, inspiration that comes from another person or from a shared people who we have shared experiences with or who we know their story, that inspiration always lands a little bit more than maybe something that you see through a Google search. Knowledge, you can learn from other people, and you do that oftentimes in context of community support. When life is hard, having someone who can support you, show up with, you know, physical touch or a meal or advice or just their presence, having that support is a benefit of having community. And then resources, especially when you move to a new area, right? There's so many things that you don't know, so many potentially different things. I mean, I moved within my same state, and so I didn't need to change my driver's license. There were many things because I moved within the same state that I didn't have to alter. But if you move to a different state or even a different country, then you need access to resources and having a community of people who can say, "Oh, this is what I did," or this is where you need to go, or talk to this person, or, look at this. All of those things are benefits of community. And so I think that understanding how community is defined can help us all to just start out on the right page. And community is a word that's used in a lot of different contexts and it kind of feels global. But I hope that these kind of give you some examples of how to take it down just a tad. But for you specifically, you need to define what you want your community to look like. And so that's what we're going to do next. So I think that, those benefits of community make sense because we've experienced them before. You just left, right, a community. And so I want you to think about, and this is your first homework. So hopefully you grabbed, or not homework, but assignment, I would say, is hopefully you grabbed a pen and a journal or a pen and a notebook, because I want you to take a minute and just consider, in context of that definition we just did, what your community looked like where you just left, like the town that you just left or the environment that you just left. What were some of the communities that you were a part of there? And maybe even some defining characteristics of that. And so when I moved to my current town from my old town, I'll tell you, I lived in Las Vegas and I worked for the MGM Grand. And so I had coworkers and I was a part of that work community. We worked in a casino, which has different hours, and there's a different language there that we, I said Camino, but I meant casino speak. Like there's some things there that are specific, a language. You have your own language, you have your own acronyms, you have all your own stuff. I also lived in a condo, and so my direct neighbors I was friends with, and we would meet at the pool on Saturday, hence why I was so tan. I had been laying out since April and it was June 1st. And so I was very tan. You're looking at me right now going, you are a white girl. But when I was younger, I really could get my tan on. Anyway, total tangent. But anyway, describe for yourself right now, what are some of the communities that you were a part of? I was not a part of a church at that time of my life. Here was another community I was a part of. We had a group of people that would go to this place called Tommy Rockers, and we would go every Thursday night. And so we would go and listen to music and dance and have a couple of drinks, and that was what we did. So those were some of the communities that I was a part of then. And I want you right now to list some of the communities that you were a part of here. And this is just getting you thinking about, in terms of application to what that definition of community is. So I want you to list those. You're already grieving the loss of those communities, so we're not going to stay here very long because I'm not trying to poke at your rawness, but I do want you to think about that in terms of what were some of the communities. And then continuing on is, what were the common characteristics? Did we center around, in this case, we centered around our love for Tommy Rocker. He always performed Jimmy Buffett songs and we knew all the words. And so the commonality was the music. And also, we all worked really hard. We were super young and some of us had multiple jobs. And so it was our one night out to just let loose. And so that was a common characteristic. In my condo, the people that met at the pool, we were all similar ages. We all, this was our first time really out of our parents' homes, that kind of stuff. So list some of the common characteristics. And then how did they function? Was it formal? Was there an agenda? Was there, did they, was it just random, or habitual or shared experiences? Was there a lot of soulful conversations, or was it just surface conversations? What are some of the things that functioned or that created, specificity to those functions and how they function? So jot down some ideas about that, and feel free at any point during this training to just press pause, spend some time reflecting on these questions, and just get down some of this information. And then, what did you get out of it? What did you get out of it personally? Like, what were some of the benefits? I mentioned, going out every Thursday night, that relaxation, that feeling like it wasn't all work and no play. That was a huge benefit to me. It's something that I needed at that stage to make the long hours, of a first job. And I was actually working two jobs to make that beneficial. I didn't want to be so young and be working all the time. So dramatic, right? So that was one of the things that I got out of it, being outside in the fresh air on Saturdays at the pool. That was something that I got out of it, and talking with people who were experiencing things that were different than me, but um I just love to hear their stories and all of that. So I got benefit out of just being friends with them, and also being outside. We also had a group that golfed. I forgot about that. We used to golf a lot of times. So after golf, we would then go to the pool. And so I got to practice a skill that I didn't have before. And to this day, I still love to golf. And then, obviously, you moving changed some of those groups, but there might have been something else that made that group or community stop working for you. And so, if that's true, then what stopped working and why? So, even if I still lived in that town, I wouldn't still be going out on Thursday nights because my lifestyle has changed now, being married and having a child, and things have happened and changed. And so, that wouldn't still be working for me. And so, I could list that there. Okay. So we're really reflecting back, and the groups and communities that we've been a part of in the past are indicators and give us clues as to what we want going forward. And so then that's going to be the next thing, is from that information that you just discerned from asking yourself these questions and writing down the answers to these questions, then what I want you to make a list now of 3 to 5 communities that you would like to build in this new place. And so, from that group, it wouldn't be people in my condo because I live in a home now, but it might be in my housing development, in my cul-de-sac, might be one community that I would like to build now. It In my work community, even though my work looks different, I might want to build a community of like-minded women who do similar work to me. So that might be a community that I would list out now. And so list 3 to 5 communities that you would like to focus your attention on to build now. That's what that last question is. Okay. So some of those answers, like as you're filling those out, you may have already taken the friendships basics class that's at the Commons. And you may also have identified your personal values with me. And if you've done those 2 things, those are going to be clues and hints to you as well for answering those questions. If you haven't, it's okay. You might already know those, but those will just help. They'll give you some clues. Friends, making a new friend and building a community are different, obviously, because of scale, right? Making a new friend um, is one individual. Making a or building a community is a group of like-minded individuals or things that are based on common. So um, as you're writing down those things, here is another example. So if I were doing that exercise and listing 3 to 5 communities right now that I would like to build, these are the 5 that I would say. My neighborhood, so again, with my neighbors in my cul-de-sac, I identified it as school. So it's not that I'm in school, but the parents of my daughter's friends are people that I would like to be relational with and build a community around, because we have a common interest in that we're raising teenagers, often teenage daughters. And so that would be a good group for me. I am a part of a church, and so I would want to be a part of a church group now, for service and small group support. Hobbies, I still love golf, so golf community would be something that would be interesting to me. And I also love books, so book clubs and book groups would be interesting to me. And then regarding my work or my role, having online entrepreneurs or podcasters, that would be a group that would be interesting to me. And so if I were listing 5, those would be my 5: neighborhood, school, church, hobbies, and roles. Okay. So I think it's important that we're realistic and that we realize that, making a friend can take a lot less time than building a community. And it's definitely a part of it. So I don't remember exactly how long it took me to develop some of those communities, and obviously, 21 years later, I have my communities look different than they did in 1999. Um, but I think the fact that I don't remember how long it took means that these things came on board over time, right? And there wasn't like a demarcation, like, okay, 3 years in, now I have this beautiful community that I wanted. And so I think that's what happens is there were wins along the way, and there was hope along the way, and definitely there were probably groups that I connected with and communities I connected with that I'm no longer a part of. And so there is an ebb and a flow and a organic growth that happens in this, and so don't be afraid of that. But I definitely want to always keep in mind that we should be realistic about how long it should take. This isn't a I'm not guaranteeing you a community in 30 days kind of thing, but I am suggesting I'm totally telling you that I can't imagine how, if you were to go through these steps over time, um, that you wouldn't build a community that you can be really, really excited about. And so spend some time in this define section, understanding what it is you really want your community to look like so that your actions can be even more impactful. Okay, so let's move on out of define and look into study. And after you've written down what your ideal community in a new place would look like, then you want to go forward and build these areas simultaneously. And so there's no 30-day guarantee or anything like that, but you're going to be building these things simultaneously, and they're all going to be moving. Even if they're not moving forward in a linear direction, they're all going to be moving. So since we defined community for ourselves, I think it's important that there's no pressure, right? Nobody's going, oh, you loser, you didn't develop a community in a certain amount of time or whatever. There's no pressure. The only pressure that we might be feeling is pressure we're putting on ourselves. Because our need for connection and for community is so strong, we can often put pressure on ourselves, right? As we really want this. And so I want you to think about, if you're feeling pressure and you're putting it on yourself, I want you to think about that. And instead of putting pressure on yourself, offer yourself some grace that this can take a little while at the same time recognizing that that pressure you're putting on yourself is really just an indicator of how strong your desire and your need for connection is. And so it's a good thing that you're feeling that. Doesn't feel good, right? But it's a good thing that you're feeling that, because it's reinforcing and affirming that yes, you do need community. And so the work that you're doing is beneficial. It is worthwhile. And so just be encouraged by that. That indicator is really I think letting you know that this is important and that this is not a waste of time, if that makes sense. Okay. I had to move that away from the word. Sorry about that. Okay, so we've named what we want. That should be clarifying and empowering to you, and it should create a little bit of exhilaration. So if you're feeling exhilaration, then I think that's a good sign, and it's important that you note that and that you can celebrate that and go forward. If you're feeling a little depleted by the whole idea, like you're feeling like this is work, this is too much work, and I'm not quite ready for this, I would say that might be an invitation for you to just simplify, keep it really simple right now. Maybe take some more time to rest. I think support is really good, but instead of 3 to 5, maybe you're going to pick one and you're just going to go forward with one. And so honor your feelings in that. Like, don't let them be a reason to be stuck, but honor them and just check in with yourself. So here is a way for you to study your own internal experience with this, right? It's not kind of, it is a feedback loop. So I want you to think about this. Check in with yourself regularly, at least I would say once a week. Just take a few minutes. I'm not saying, schedule half a day and sit in your spa or whatever, but just check in with yourself regularly, then take some action, and then evaluate the impact of your action. And then check in with yourself again, take some action, evaluate the impact of your action. And so this is kind of the cycle that you're going to go through, this built in feedback system as you're building community. Okay. Check in with yourself, take some action, evaluate the impact. Check in with yourself, take some action, evaluate the impact. So I won't say it anymore because it might be annoying, but I'm going to show you some examples of what that could look like. Okay. So let's say you check in and you are feeling excitement and exhilaration. You can take some action. And we're going to talk in the homework section about what those actions might be. But this is, telling you keep going. You're feeling excitement. This is energizing to you. You're, moving in the right direction. So just keep going. Um, and then evaluate the impact. Do you feel like the actions that you're taking, it's exciting, right? It's exhilarating. Is it just busyness, or are you really building community to your end goal? So, like, what this could look like is, like, let's say that you decide that you really want to focus on your neighbors, and that's the community that you want to build, and you're feeling excitement and exhilaration and things are going great, and so you want to keep going. But when you stop to evaluate the impact towards your goal of building community in your neighborhood, you realize that you've been super busy but you haven't spent any time with your neighbors. Like, every time they invite you to go for a walk, you're too busy. Or they say, you know what, I'm having pizza, do you want to bring your family over tonight, and you're like, oh, I can't, we're too busy, we can't do that. And so that's a time for you to evaluate the impact. So what that could look like is that you might say, "Oh my gosh, I'm not, my calendar's too full with things that are not um, intentionally building community in my neighborhood." And so I need to either decide that building neighborhood community is not important to me. And so that's okay. And I'm building community in these other areas, and that's, I was just off. I thought I wanted a community in my neighborhood, but I don't actually want community in my neighborhood. I mean, I wouldn't say that exactly, but you know what I'm saying. So evaluating it could say, okay, I just, that's the wrong goal. That's not, this isn't the right season for me to do that. Or it could be, I'm filling myself up with all of these activities that are not um, coming together to build community. So I'm, having lunch with this person, and I'm doing this with this person, and I'm doing this with this person, but I'm not really doing what I wanted to build a community. So I'm busy, but I'm not doing fulfilling things. If that makes sense. So this happened to me. The example that I would give is, I was doing a bunch of things. I was building a business. So I was doing a lot of networking. I was trying to manage my daughter's activities. And then my husband had a busy social calendar as well. And so we were always going in different directions. And we had a lot of great relationships and friendships, but we weren't building community in the same area at the same time. And so we stepped up away and we evaluated the impact of that, and we said, these are not bad things at all, but they're not exactly what we want. We want to build community with families where there's someone for my husband, there's someone for my kid, and there's someone for me, where we're spending time together and we're building together. And then, as just by nature of how that was defined, then that meant that we were spending more time as a family together along with other families. And so that's what I mean by evaluating the impact. Are you achieving what you want? Is it moving you towards your goal of building community, or is it just busyness and that's less fulfilling than building community? So that's what you would ask yourself. I can't answer that for you. There's not a right or wrong. Even my example, you might disagree with, because you're not, an Osorno. And so you're not thinking through that as an Osorno would, or as Carla would. And so this is such an individual question. And that's where it's important, if you've already done that value work, to know what your values are as an individual and as a family. So that's one example of how you might use this feedback loop to check in. So let's say that I decide that I really want to be intentional with my neighbors. Then I want to, go back to, I've checked in with myself, I've evaluated the impact. It's exciting to do those other things, but I'm going to back off of those things and do some more things with my neighbors, right? So maybe that looks like, this also happened, is there was a time where I wanted to be intentional and grow with a church group, a community group that I was part of, but I couldn't even imagine adding one more thing to my calendar. And then someone had this brilliant idea, and I thought it was so powerful when I heard it. And it seems so silly now because it was so smart, but they said, the next time you're going to do whatever, just invite someone from this group. And so that's what I did. So that very next day, I was going to be hanging out with my daughter in the backyard. We had scheduled some time to just chill out, hang out. And I invited another gal from that group. She came over. We ended up, and this isn't required, but we ended up drinking an entire bottle of white wine and had the best conversation. And to this day, she's one of my closest friends. And so it was super fun to just see how I didn't need to add another thing on my calendar. I could do what I was already doing, but just be more welcoming and invite her over. And she lives in a different town, so I don't get to see her nearly as much as I want to, but I love her. She's like family. Okay, so that is that. Hopefully that makes all kinds of sense, and you're seeing how that can apply to you. So let's say you check in and you're feeling sadness and grief. I don't want you to just take action and keep going. I want you to rest, take care of yourself. Like, think about what you can do to grieve. You are grieving the loss of your prior connections, your prior communities. Like, moving to a new town has a lot of stressors and emotions and all kinds of stuff. And so, um, take some time, rest, take care of yourself. Like, give yourself some space so that you're not going all the time, because that can be too overwhelming. And then the evaluate impact of this step is just make sure you're not hiding. Make sure you're not hiding, because building community is hard sometimes and can bring up new emotions. Make sure that that once you have rested and you've taken care of yourself, that you don't get stuck in staying isolated, that you make sure, ask yourself that question, am I hiding? And so there have definitely been seasons. I mean, even after the season that we've just gone through with quarantine, is it was time to re-engage, and I had to ask myself, am I hiding from people? Because as an introvert, I can tend to do that. And so I had to be careful to make sure, I'm rested now. I've had the time that I needed to heal. I'd gone through some surgeries, and I've had the time that I needed to heal. And so now I need to make sure that I'm not hiding from people and hiding from community, so I can get back into the game. Okay. Okay, so check in with yourself. Let's say you're feeling anxiety and feeling overwhelmed. I definitely think that this is another time to rest and take care of yourself, but you're also going to do that moving forward, right? Because sometimes we talked about all the benefits of community, that overwhelm and anxiety, community can offer support. So instead of it being another thing that you have to, or another task or another list item, they can actually help reduce your anxiety and help reduce your overwhelm. For example, let's say you're in a community of women who notices how you're feeling and just stops by with dinner, right? I mean, that's a benefit of a community, and that you can feel that. And so definitely rest and take care of yourself, but do it as you're moving forward. And then evaluating the impact, make sure you might be ready to engage, but just with a simplified plan. So instead of doing all the things you were doing or moving forward your 3 to 5 communities simultaneously, maybe you just pick one and you really focus your energy and effort on that. And so I think it's just important to pay attention to these feelings that you're having and see how they are inviting you into either rest or into action, or what kind of action that looks like. That's kind of what we're talking about here. Okay. So we have studied now. We defined community first, and then we studied our internal reserves and our internal experiences. And we decided that there's a couple of things that we could do as we go forward. And so now we're going to jump into this application and talk about some initial steps to building community in a new place. So, using what you know about what you want and what you are personally capable of, now you can take some action and create some rhythms that will help you to build community. So, I'm going to just tell you what these things are, and then we're going to dig into each of them individually. So, this is what you're going to do. You're going to put yourself in spaces. It's more difficult to build community in your house than it is in spaces. You're going to remember often that building community takes effort. You're going to show vulnerability. You're going to manage your mind, and you're going to make an idea list. That's what we're going to do in our homework section. So, are you ready? Okay. Put yourself in spaces. So again, keeping in mind what you want, right? What you want in community. So you have, some ideas about what the communities are that you want, and you want to go in spaces where you share common characteristics and common goals, but you've got to put yourself out there into those spaces. And so I want to recommend that you think of yourself as a joiner. There's a season of life after you move to a new place where you are a joiner. Introvert or extrovert, it doesn't matter. You are a joiner. And what that means is that you're going to join more things than you can keep, if that makes sense. So you're kind of like, it's like kind of like fishing. You might have, I don't know, that's not a good analogy. What is it like? What's a good analogy? Someone out there is thinking of the perfect analogy, and I just wish you could tell me. But anyway, you're going to join lots of things for a season while you determine what is best for you. You're not marrying yourself to one specific thing, place, group, or club for life, but you're just looking at what's out there. So let's say, for example, I'm, wanting to grow my golf community. Um, I might join a group that's taking group golf lessons. I might look at joining a golf club. I might look at a business group that golfs every Wednesday night. Like, I might look at 3 or 4 things, long term, I don't have time to do all of those things, but I might just join for a temporary season just to see which of those activities is going to be the best for me. Um, I think it's really important here because there's so many options for online activities now to keep in mind that at this point, because you're trying to build community with physical people, physical in the physical place that you live, I would try and avoid online activities until you feel like a solid footing in your offline activities, if that makes sense. You probably are going to need to use online searches to find offline activities, physical activities, in-person activities, however you want to call it. But I would be really careful as you're in this be a joiner phase and you're putting yourself in spaces to not get connected and be spending so much time online. Because here's the danger, right? Is you sign up for these meetups or whatever, and you're spending all your time responding to emails and communications and organizing instead of out there doing the thing. So I could read a lot about golf. I could even do some Facebook groups that are golfers, and I could be around people who have common interests, but I'm not going to actually be playing golf and building community with golfers in my own town. So, but I could go online and look and I could see where they're playing and then I could go meet them. But just find that balance for yourself of offline and online. And just keep in mind that that can be an energy drain being online too much and you're talking about things you're interested in, but it's not really getting you out there to build community. So in this step, remember building, it's not even a step, but this homework piece component, remember building community takes effort. I want to remind you that people are not most of the time going to come to you. So you are going to have to make some effort to get out there. They are already in their rhythms and routines and all of that. And so even if they're kind people or friendly people, they're not always going to come to you. And so that's important to remember that for right now, that is going to be you making more of an effort. And hopefully they'll meet you halfway and they'll be very, very welcoming and make that easier for you. The realities of a new place often mean that you feel left out. Um, so you need to manage that. You need to remember that um, thinking people are settled and they've got it all figured out can be hurtful to you, but I want you to be persistent and just push through the pain. So what this could look like is, let's say that books are your thing and you want to build a book community and you join a book group and they have known each other forever and the whole conversation is about what happened 3 years ago and oh yeah, that's right, and your favorite color is green, and they're talking all about the things that they have in common, that they the shared experiences that they've had, and so they've had they have a history together, and so it can make you feel left out. And so instead of making, taking that to heart and saying this isn't the group for me, it might not be the group for you, but just consider that maybe it's going to take you some time to to have those shared experiences too. But if you're persistent, then you can push through the pain. So if they're mean about it, then it might not be the right group for you. But if they're just reliving it and sharing it in a organic way and focusing on the book and stuff, then I would encourage you to be persistent and push through that because it won't be long before you also have shared stories with them. Okay, next, don't forget that you can combine the community with what you're already doing. I mentioned that in my example is if you want to check out a new park, then invite your neighbor. Let's say you're building your neighborhood community, then invite your neighbor. And then always be ready to contribute to the group. Be ready to give and not just consume. And that can be helpful, right? Is if you're in the book club example that I just gave, is just suggesting to the host, hey, is it okay if I come a half an hour early? I would love to, assemble this appetizer that I love and share it with the group. And so by doing that, then you're coming and you're having a conversation with the host as you assemble your appetizer. You're doing that one on one. And so you have time to just feel a little bit more comfortable in the setting before everyone else comes. And so that's something that you can do to contribute, but also to help yourself to, get to know her a little bit more. And who doesn't want a fun new appetizer that you know, you've discovered, but they haven't yet discovered. So that's kind of fun. It's also a great way, right? Because then often, I mean, you could bring a couple of the recipes just in case anyone asks you. So instead of having to email them later, you can just hand it to them. Like there's little things that you can do, although emailing it to them later is not a bad idea either, because now you have a connection string, a conversation string that can go on outside of the group. Definitely don't hide behind being new. You have a lot to offer. You've come from communities. You are an awesome person. You have something to offer, and so you don't have to feel like you're you're new, and so they've got it all figured out and there's no spot for you. There's absolutely a spot for you. And you can engage without trying to change others or be a know it all, and also without feeling like I'm the newbie and nobody wants me here, because that is not a helpful attitude. And if it's true, then that's not the group for you. But I mean, if they're making you feel like it's true, it's not the group for you, but it's probably not true. It's just our own insecurities, right? When there's something new, can hop up and be ugly. And so I would encourage you just to remember that community takes effort, and that you're going to have to manage some of these initial feelings, and just remember that those could be lies, that you're telling yourself, and they're not serving you. And so go forward with courage. Okay, next in our little homework section is show vulnerability. So community friendships can happen oftentimes without vulnerability, right? A shared interest, we golf together, but we really don't know each other. And so to develop community, though, you're taking it to another level, you're going deeper. And so here are some ideas for showing vulnerability. Be curious, ask questions. Again, in our example, if you're helping the host and preparing your appetizer, that'd be a great time to ask questions of her and just get to know her a little bit better, right? It's sometimes easier to get to know each other one-on-one than it is in that big group. Be interested. This might be a little hard, right? Because your cup, your proverbial cup is empty because you've been moving and you've had so many stressors, and so you can feel depleted. But if you can put your posture of interest, being in a posture of interest, and being curious about that other person rather than being needy, and because your cup is empty, it would be tempting to be needy, right? And so put yourself in a posture of interest, rather than need, if at all possible. Be discerning. Don't overshare, but be ready to trust first. This one's a tough one, right? Because I'm saying this, and you might be in a position where you're like, yep, totally got that. I'm a discerning person and I got that. Or you might be someone who's had a lot of past wounds and you're a little bit raw and your trust has been broken and you have some internal work to do before you can move past that. And so I'm not trying to oversimplify that, but this is something where we're all kind of on a spectrum. And so showing vulnerability does require discernment. And so just see where you're at with that. You can check in and then be honest. Not only be honest with others about your story, but also be honest with yourself about taking responsibility and knowing that you're giving it your all to build community. You've already decided it's important. You're spending time talking with us here today at this class, like you're making efforts. And so remember that this does take work, but it's worth it. And so just give yourself grace, but also push yourself to give it your all instead of just saying it's too hard and giving up. Because I mean, I've done that. We've all done that, right? At times. And was it the end of the world? Maybe not. Maybe we found our community elsewhere. But if you're investing yourself, then just be encouraged and give it your all. Okay. The next thing is manage your mind. Don't beat yourself up for grieving, because you need to appreciate what you've lost. Like if you had a great community and a thriving community, and your people are in your other town, and now you've lost that, there's grief related to that. And so show yourself some grace for sure. And don't look back with rose colored glasses. Like, it's tempting when we move to just forget all the things. Like, there were problems in your community too. I'm sure it wasn't perfect. So avoid over glamorizing it and assuming that it was perfect back there, or assuming in this new group that everyone has it all together and it's just you. You're the only one who can't make community. Okay, manage your expectations. Every single thing is new, from you know, your new grocery store, your new toilet paper, like the food options, your grocery store is probably lined up differently. You're getting gas at a different place. Like, you're experiencing so many new things, which can be exciting, but it also can be a lot. And so manage your expectations, that you can't do it all, and don't be hard on yourself. So we're finding that tension, right, between holding ourselves responsible and being too hard on ourselves. And I'm not contradicting myself when I'm saying these things. I'm just inviting you to find that tension and to find that exact right place, and just continually be checking in with yourself. You have a huge list of tasks, right? And you also have responsibility to help other people in your family, your kids and your husband. They're also adjusting. And so you're kind of as the woman, often you're the heart of the family. And so you're having to help them. And so you need to just manage your mind and your expectations regarding that as well. Don't be too hard on yourself. Be honest about how you're feeling. Admit if you're sad, instead of just putting on a happy place. Like, this place is great. It's so great. It's so great. If you're sad, it's okay to be sad. You don't have to be happy all the time. The idea would just be here is trick yourself in that you can't get stuck in sad. Grieve for sure, but don't get stuck there. I have a friend who just suggested recently that she, would set a timer, like not really like legitimately set a timer, but give herself a limit of like, I'm going to be sad today, but then tomorrow I'm going to wake up, go for a walk, take a shower, and be refreshed. And so she would just kind of give herself time for her. She calls it a pity party. I don't know that I would call it that, but give herself time for that. And then she would move forward. So that's something that you could consider, is that you're going to set a timer or give yourself a certain amount of time to be sad. I'm going to give myself this weekend just to have a pajama weekend and, binge watch whatever and just check out. But then starting next week, I'm going to get right back into the game. So that's something that you could consider. But all of these are about managing your mindset around what you're experiencing, because your feelings are real, but we don't want them to be the sole drivers. We want them to be invitations to look at something else and, to point us in the right direction. And really, they're identifying what our core desires are so that we can then take action towards those core desires. And so if our feelings become too loud of a voice, they can stop us from taking action. So we're just kind of managing our mindset around those things. And then next, we're going to make an idea list. So we've talked about a lot of things. We've looked internally to see where we're at, but we're going to make up a list in light of our ideal community. Okay. So I don't know if I actually wrote these down. Nope, I didn't. Okay, well, here you go. So here's a list based on some of the things that I identified as my core community. These are some ideas. And these are action steps that you can take. So this is an ideal list of action steps. And then as part of our homework, I'm going to ask you to pick some. So if any of these resonate with you, you can take them. Or if they trigger in you a different idea, then write that idea down. So here's one. Today, I will sign up for a golf club. Okay. I'm part of a 9-hole golf group that plays every Thursday morning in golf season, which in the area that I live in is pretty long, which is awesome. Our first day of play is coming up this week, so it's super fun. But the action was today, I will sign up for a golf club. Okay. The next one, today, I will research churches in the area. If you're part of an existing church or that was part of a network, you can do that. You can look and see if any churches in your area are part of that network. You can ask for referrals. You can, there's a lot of things you can do, but in your research, that would be your action step. I'm not signing up for a golf club today and researching churches, but today I'm going to sign up for a golf club. Maybe tomorrow or Friday, I'm going to research churches. Like it's something, today is one action item. Today, I will linger after school and initiate conversation. So I told you one of my communities is parents of the girls that go to school with my daughter. So lingering after school and initiating conversations would be my step towards building community. The next idea is today I will ask my new mom friend if she is in a book club or would want to start one with me. You guys can totally tell what I do in my leisure time, right? Today, here's another idea. Today I will take lemonade or cookies or flowers, pick one, to a neighbor and introduce myself. Today, I will set myself up in my driveway with extra chairs and I'll be friendly with people who are walking by or are in their own yards. So, you guys, there's a lady who started this trend with, she calls it the turquoise table. There's a book, there's a whole phenomenon about it. And years ago, I bought myself a turquoise table, and this has single handedly been the one thing that has helped me to increase community in my neighborhood. Is I can sit out there anytime. I can take the book I'm reading, I can take my snack, I can do whatever. I can just sit at this table anytime, and you would be completely amazed about how many people are out walking through my neighborhood. I've met so many different people, I have so many stories. I could write my own book about all the stories. But you don't have to have a turquoise table to do this. You could just set yourself up in your chairs and you'll be shocked at how many people are actually outside. You might be missing them when you're going to your car or going to your mailbox or whatever, but there are actually a lot of people out there and you'll be amazed at the conversations that you can have. And I'm an introvert and I did this, so I am sure that all of you can do it as well. The other value of that table, I have friends that they know it's code for meet me at the table is code for let's talk about something deep. Okay. So anyway, those are some ideas. Today I will sign up for a golf club. Today I will research churches in the area. Today I will linger after school and initiate conversations. Today I will ask my new mom friend if she's in a book club or would want to start one. Today I will take lemonade or cookies or flowers to a neighbor and introduce myself. Today, I will set myself up in my driveway with extra chairs and be friendly with people who are walking by or in their own yards. So, those are some ideas. There's a bazillion more. I mean, if we were talking right now on Zoom, we could think of so many in just a few minutes. And so you can have your own ideas. Again, they're going to be flowing from what you've already created with the actions that you've been doing in your journal today. But now what I'm going to tell you is this is going to be your actual homework. So all of this was leading into, pre-work for the homework. Your action plan to create new rhythms is to pick 3 actions. So from my list or from the list that you just created in your mind, I want you to write down 3 action items that you can take forward to start building community in your new place, and write them down. 1, 2, 3. So what I like to do when I'm making a list like this is I physically write down number 1, and I always circle my numbers. This is a weird quirk that I have, but you can do it too if you want. Number 2, circle. Number 3, circle. And then I start to list those ideas, like create a space for them and then write them out. So do you have your 3 written down right now? It's okay if you don't, because you have until the end of the day to write them down and then share your plan. So that's the second part of, or third part of this, I guess. So pick 3 actions, write them down, and then share your plan. You can share it with a friend who's already in your zip code. Maybe you've already made one friend in your zip code now, or more than one. You can share it with them. You can share it with your husband. Or if those 2 are not an option for you, you can share your plan with me. So find me, direct message me. My daughter would kill me for saying that. Just DM me and tell me your plan. Regardless, I want you to share it. It doesn't matter who you share it with, but I want you to share your plan by the end of today. And then act. Act on your plan and celebrate your wins. So do what you said you would do when you shared it with your friend, your husband, or with me. Take action. You cannot fail. Really, beauty, you cannot fail. The worst case scenario, the worst thing you can imagine that could happen could really literally happen and you would still be okay. You have nothing to lose. So go for it. So we covered a lot here today. This topic is so intense and there's a million different directions you could go. But I would encourage you to go through these things that we did. I hope you've taken some notes. I hope you have an aha moment. I hope you have a written plan, and I hope that you've made a decision to execute on your plan. Remember when in school, we had an evaluation at the end of class? This is the evaluation in the online world. I want you to evaluate whether we did what we said we would do. Did we define community? Did we look internally to see, what's our readiness and what are some of our experiences? And did we create some homework or some action steps that we can do going forward? So you can feel free to grade me, traditional school grading A through F. You can do that by contacting me on my website, carlaosorno.com, or send me a note with your feedback. You can also go and find me at the Comments with Carla on Instagram, or my name, Carla_Osorno. And I want to give you all A pluses in this class, but to do that, you have to do your homework. So go do your homework. So just to wrap up, I want you to ask yourself this question: will I choose to move forward and build community now, or stay isolated for a while longer? I hope your answer is I will build community. And I hope that you take the most important part of this away, is that community takes time, thought, energy, but the effort is always worth it. We thrive in community. You thrive in community, and you can build community in your new place and love your place. It may not happen overnight, so enjoy the journey, relish the good and the growth. Now go out there, have some fun with your homework, and please don't forget to share your wins with me. I am super excited to hear from you, and I'm so glad that you took the time to join me today. So thanks for being here.